If there is one hill that I will die on, it is the fact that there is no hate that will ever be more forced than Tyla hate. Who knew that merely suggesting Afrobeats and Amapiano be the next genre to take center stage at the Super Bowl and putting up Tyla as the performer? Who knew that hypothetical question and suggestion is what would put an end to the diaspora wars, at least for the moment, and unite the diaspora this Black History Month? Let's get into it. Aloha, beautiful humans. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome back if we've been locked in. My name is Sasha, and today we're going to be talking about my thoughts from the Super Bowl, anticipation for the next Super Bowl, and why this Super Bowl has hit so different considering the current climate we are in politically in the United States. Before we get into it, if you haven't yet, go and watch the Super Bowl performance. I'm not even calling it the Super Bowl performance. I'm calling it the Benito Bowl, the Bad Bunny concert that just so happened to take place during a national televised sporting event. For the sport of American football. That is what I've been referring to the Super Bowl as for the past few years now, because if I'm being completely honest, I really haven't been into football like that ever since the whole Colin Kaepernick situation happened. And as we come to understand CTE more, I just really don't vibe with football, but we all have our vices. So I'm not going to be on this morally superior hill. You know, there are things that bring us satisfaction, things that bring us joy. And if you love football, if you watch football, more power to you. I was just excited for the Benito Bowl. And Snow Bay, he is from New England, so quite naturally, he is a Patriots fan. And, and to that I say, he was not a very happy camper. But it was just overall, the Benito Bowl, it was a beautiful experience. It was culturally immersive. There are some things that I got, some things that I didn't get. But if you are somebody who didn't catch all of the symbolism, we'll talk about that a little bit later. So first and foremost, like I said, it was a beautifully done Super Bowl. The performance was amazing. It was just from start to finish, it was great. People were saying it was a little short. I didn't think it was that short, but in all honesty, so much of music is very short nowadays. Like the songs are 2.5 minutes long, 2 minutes and 48 seconds. Like I'm so happy nowadays if and when I hear a song that is longer than 3 minutes, longer than 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I'll be dead ass surprised if and when we get music longer than 4 minutes. Like I love it. So it was a really great performance. I think it was I read about it. It was like a minute or two shorter than previous Super Bowl sets. But Bad Bunny, he is just one of those newer artists that their music, their songs specifically, are a little bit shorter. And then when you also take into account the fact that the football players have to get back on the field. They have to warm up. They have to practice. They got to do their thing. They got to set up the set. They got to take it down. I don't think it was short by any means. I don't think the length of it compromised the experience. It was aesthetically pleasing. He went through his hits. He had Ricky Martin out there. Ricky Martin looked so good. He had Ricky Martin out there. He had Lady Gaga performing. And at first I was confused by Lady Gaga, but then I read that she was really inspirational to Bad Bunny in his journey to becoming an artist. So I thought it was really beautiful that she agreed to perform with him. It would have been nice to see Bruno Mars, but at the same time, it was just a great experience. It was cultural. It was Puerto Rican. It was vibrant. It was beautiful. It made you laugh. It made you cry. It was sweet. It was just a very culturally immersive moment. And it just really went to show that for as much as we believe divides us, there are so many universal themes within our own cultural backgrounds. You know, everybody from every culture gets married. I loved the wedding scene, and it was even better when you find out that it was actually a real wedding. And speaking of that wedding scene, when I say this was a culturally immersive and also unifying experience, especially for the diaspora, it made me crack up so much. That kid that he woke up that was laying across the chairs at the wedding, because if you go to any function, like as a Nigerian American, a first generation Nigerian American, there were so many parties. My parents were taking us to parties left and right, sometimes on school nights, definitely on the weekends, and they were not going to leave just because we were tired. Like immediately, no. If you were tired, go find somewhere to sleep. So there were definitely nights where I fell asleep, me and my siblings on a pile of coats or at a table, like sitting like this at a table, or falling asleep across some chairs. When you go, if it's a house party, you go to the back room where all of the coats are. You'll find a baby asleep there, or there's some kid falling asleep there. It was so funny to me after the Benito Bowl. to get on social media and see so many people talk about, oh yeah, that's what we do in my culture. That's what we do in my culture too. Like all the kids, they be sleeping in the room or sleeping in chairs and falling asleep at functions and stuff. I really think it was so timely and so necessary to where we are at this point in our, not even just where we are politically, but culturally. For so long, we sold this idea of America as a melting pot, even though it's more of a salad bowl because we're still very segregated as a people as it pertains to how we live in our communities. We are very still segregated racially, socioeconomically. So we're more of a salad bowl. We're more of a salad bowl, not a melting pot. But for the longest time, before things went very left recently, we championed our diversity as a country. We acknowledged all of the different ethnicities and cultures that made America what it is. And so that experience, seeing like Afro Latinos up there, when we think about Latinos, when we think about Puerto Ricans, when you think about just the Latino culture and population, there is one narrow aesthetic that is constantly pushed. And to see so many Afro Latinos on his stage, you see celebration of not even just Afro Latinos, but the LGBTQ community in Latino culture. You see representation of the LGBTQIA plus community in his performance. There is a gay presence within every single culture. And so there were so many things as a society that we championed. We championed our diversity. We were getting to a place as a culture where we were open and we were accepting and we were moving forward. And very recently, all of that has been pulled back. So to see a night where you have the biggest platform in the United States of America, one of the biggest cultural exports, the Super Bowl, or the biggest cultural moment here in America, in the United States of America, it was so beautiful to see such diversity represented. What I also loved about his performance is that it was entirely in Spanish. It was entirely in Spanish. The only thing he said was English, was God bless America. And I felt like that was obviously so very pointed, and then right after he said, God bless America, he then says, be it. Well, not be it. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say be it in English, but sea, I think it was sea, translated from Spanish is be it or which is. And then he goes on to list out all of the countries that comprise America. And people were legitimately so confused by this because of the narrative that has been pushed for so long that the United States of America is America. And that is not the case. Let's quick geography lesson real quick. Quick geography lesson. So apparently there is some confusion over the end of the Benito Bowl when he starts calling out all of the countries that comprise the Americas and then ends with this message, together we are America. And so just a quick primer for anyone who was asleep during geography class or history class. America does not just comprise the United States of America. Just very quickly. We are North America. The United States of America is North America. All of these countries down here and down here in South America, that's all the Americas, okay? George W. Bush must do time. He must do time. He needs to be arrested tonight, today, because the confusion that has been stemming from this is actually kind of baffling to see. And we do not do a good job of teaching history in this country. So the confusion is understandable, but the outrage, it is fake outrage. Colloquially speaking, yes, a lot of people refer to the United States of America as just America. So I can understand how and why that may be confusing, but this is not a political statement, as some people are trying to make it seem like, or revisionist history. This is just what it is. We are all together. We are all America. That's it. That's all. If you're mad about it, fight with geography, not Bad Bunny. Like I always say, George W. Bush must do time for No Child Left Behind, because not only were a lot of children left behind, those people are now procreating and now their children are being left farther behind, okay? It's actually getting dire and a little crazy that would have to be explained to people. But again, that is just a failure of our education system, and not necessarily just a failure of our education system, but again, the way the image of what America is, what constitutes America, and who is American, this performance turned it on its face. And so I just loved it from start to finish. I really enjoyed it. I don't know a lot of Bad Bunny music. I know 10 words in Spanish. I know 10 words in Spanish, okay? But it was just something, if you have any level of a soul, if you have any level of community, if you have any level of what it is to exist as a person in community, in love and fellowship with other people, you did not need to speak a word of Spanish to understand what was happening. You don't have to be aware of Puerto Rican culture to see that that was a celebration of community, love, family, friendship, all of it. It was just beautiful from start to finish. Now, because of where we are, unfortunately, in the cultural lexicon we are in right now, the political, the social, cultural, political place we are in this country, the performance was not without criticism. And I don't want to spend too much time on the criticism because I feel like when you give air, time, energy, and attention to the criticism, you are giving them not only what they are looking for, but you are legitimizing that criticism. And if you had something to complain about, as it pertains to this performance, not only was it a choice, but apparently Turning Point USA had an entirely different celebration, had their own halftime performance, which I honestly thought was a joke. Like, I had heard about it in passing a few weeks ago, and I legitimately thought it was a joke. Like, I dead ass thought people were trolling when they were like, oh, I'm not turning into that Super Bowl. I'm turning into, what did they call it? The Great American All-Time Super Bowl or whatever the heck they called it. I thought that that was a joke. Come to find out, it was actually real. It was headlined by Kid Rock. It was pre-recorded and it was just a mess. I'm sorry, but if you're gonna be contrarian, do it right. Do it right. Like, they didn't have they have a whole pyrotechnic set for that man and his memorial and everything like that. So I'm like, Turning Point USA, y'all just had a whole big thing. What happened? Like, this looked terrible from what the photos that I saw of it and some of the videos that I saw on TikTok. Like, I saw this video of this girl. She was at the Super Bowl and she put in her earbuds to listen to the Turning Point USA halftime show. And I was like, why are you even there in the first place then? Like, at that point, like, what a loser behavior, loser behavior. But anyway, so if you didn't want to watch the Benito Bowl, no one was forcing you to watch it. That's the crazy part. People be complaining about things as if somebody was forced holding their hand. Is it by force? Is it by force? Like, come on now, relax, relax, relax. So apparently some people watched the Kid Rock performance. I didn't even know he had music like that. The only song I know of his is Ba With a Ba. Does he have any other songs? Anyways, I don't know. So, anyways, there was that criticism, how people weren't going to watch it because Bad Bunny is not American. I think I saw Danica Patrick say something about it. And I was like, again, geography, history. Puerto Ricans are American. Puerto Rico is in America. Puerto Ricans have United States of America citizenship. So what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? Like, people really got to do this. Super Bowl exposed a lot of people's not only general ignorance about just geography and politics, but also history. Like, I was a big history nerd growing up. I've always loved history, so I can't relate to these people. But anyways, there was the criticism about it being in Spanish, and that I can understand. Like I said, football is a product of the United States of America. Generally, if you are an American citizen living in the United States of America, you know English. English is most of people's first language and only language. However, people in America, people in the United States of America who English is their only language, they said that they didn't understand Kendrick Lamar when he was up there last year. They didn't understand what he was saying. So it's like, clearly it's not a Spanish English thing. Clearly it's a you thing because Kendrick Lamar was up there speaking in perfect English and people claimed they still didn't understand him. And he was not up there singing and rapping in cursive like a lot of these mumble rappers and these cursive singers. No, he was up there speaking good American English. So if you didn't understand him, that is a you thing, not a Kendrick thing. And when you are looking for something to complain about and find fault in, you will absolutely find it. So it was very clear that of all of these criticisms, people were just nitpicking, right? They said that they didn't understand the Spanish. I understood 10 words, but like I said, when you know culture, when you know flavor, when you got something in you and your soul, you gonna dance, you gonna move, okay? I know 7 words of Titi Mu Pregente. I've taught a few Bad Bunny classes. I don't understand what he be saying, but it's just vibes, okay? It is vibes. You know what I know? One thing I know for certain, I know the vibes, okay? The girls know the vibes. The girls know the vibes. But anyway, so there was that whole criticism about people, him not being American. False. It being in Spanish, oh well. Subtitles, turn them on your TV, okay? Would subtitles have been nice? Perhaps, turn them on. Also, it wasn't just announced the day before that he was going to be performing. They announced this months ago. You had months to learn his catalog and learn the songs and learn what he was saying. So a lot of this criticism fell flat. People are looking to complain. And whenever you are looking to complain about something, you will always find what you are looking for. One complaint that I can understand is not knowing what was going on. Now, like I said earlier, if you understand community, if you understand culture, if you are in proximity to, or you are in an environment where you are being raised with love, those themes were the overarching theme of the performance. However, there are other things that I did not understand because I'm not Puerto Rican. That didn't make it so. I didn't enjoy the performance though. And I think sometimes we have to understand that not everything is for us, and practice a level of intellectual curiosity. If you didn't understand what it meant, Google is your friend. And there are so many people who lack any level of creativity, who lack any level of intellectual curiosity. And I'm not one of those people, so I don't understand it. Like if I see something and I don't understand what's going on, I'm going to look online. I'm going to ask somebody I know. If I don't know anybody of that culture or anybody that has understanding in that thing in particular, I'm going to hop online and I'm going to do my Googles. I'm going to do my research. So I'm so happy I found this video explaining everything, all of the symbolism that I personally missed, because there were a few, like I said, I understood, but there are some that I missed. So if you didn't understand some things, that's okay. Here's a video breaking down basically the Benito Bowl from start to finish.
This in no way meant patriotism and love of America as a country. Actually, let's play a game. I'm gonna tell you all the real symbolic cultural moments as a Boricua, including what this one was about, and I want you to tell me in the comments how many you got right. Now let's begin where it all started. We see the Jíbaro, the traditional Puerto Rican countryman with the pava, the straw hat, saying,
Qué rico es ser latino. ¡Hoy se ve!
and interestingly enough, he starts by setting the precedent that all of this is going to be in Spanish, because he says Benito Antonio Martínez Ocasio, his full government name, presents el espectáculo de medio tiempo del Supertazón, the spectacle of the halftime of the Super Bowl, all in Spanish. And if you look at the backdrop, you will see the sugarcane plantations, which in Puerto Rico were the backbone of the island's colonial economy, heavily dependent on enslaved African labor, particularly during the 19th century sugar boom. In the very next frames, we see Bad Bunny turned around before he reveals himself, and he's wearing a 64 on his football jersey. 64 was the number the Trump administration gave out as the number of people who died after Hurricane Maria, but the actual death toll by that time was actually 1,052. Then we see Bad Bunny walk around the sugarcane plantation, showing us very historical and cultural markers of Puerto Rican culture, like for example, the coconut stand, which historically coconuts provided subsistence for Puerto Rican workers and were considered a vital tree of life for supplying water, food, and oil. The abundance of coconut palms allowed them to become a staple for local businesses. Roadside coconut vendors became a staple of Puerto Rican culture, particularly in coastal areas offering fresh, chilled coconuts with the tops cut off. Then he walks by the table of father, uncles, and grandfathers playing dominoes, which in Puerto Rico, dominoes, or el dominó, is more than just a game. It is a cherished cultural staple, social ritual, and symbol of community that bridges generations together through strategy and storytelling. He then walks by badass Puerto Rican women doing construction, which represents badass Puerto Rican women who shouldn't be underestimated because they also do manual labor, like construction, very subversive to the patriarchy. Then he walks by a piragua cart. Now, piraguas are more than just a shaved ice dessert in Puerto Rico. They're actually a cultural icon, a symbol of nostalgia and a staple of island life. Brought to places like New York City during the Great Migration in the 1940s, piraguas symbolized the adaptability and endurance of Puerto Rican culture in new environments. But then we see him walk by a taco cart, but not just any taco cart. This is an actual taco cart in California called the Villa's Taco Cart. The business owner, Victor, who started the business out of his grandmother's home kitchen 8 years ago, now has 3 locations around California. And this shows Bad Bunny has a commitment to supporting local small businesses over big corporations. After he visits the taco cart, we do see him ducking under boxers as he continues singing. Often considered one of the best boxing nations pound for pound, Puerto Rico has produced over a dozen Hall of Fame inductees. And in 2004, it became the first territory to have champions in all 17 traditional weight divisions. Boxing is deeply ingrained in society, and it serves as a pathway for and reflection of the island's warrior spirit. Then we see the famous casita that we were introduced to at the residency in Puerto Rico. It serves as a cultural anchor representing home, community, and the marquesina party culture. The marquesina is an open-air garage where people meet, greet, and talk for hours all day. And yes, Black Afro-Puerto Rican representation was brought to the forefront at the casita because Black Puerto Ricans very much exist, take up space, and are family, no matter how much white supremacy doesn't like the fucking idea. And the same goes for queer and gay representation. We exist, live, laugh, and our gay joy is also resistance and revolutionary. But then to the melody of Monaco, he tells us that he made it to Super Bowl 60 because he believed in himself. And then he reminds you, believe in yourself, because you will be able to achieve everything you want in life if you do so. From there, we go to the actual wedding that was real and officiated at the Super Bowl, which is iconic in and within itself, but is really about family and community and love. And then we reveal that Lady Gaga's in the motherfucking building, and not only in the building, but killed it. But this was also a culturally significant moment. Gaga is wearing a light blue dress, which is the correct kind of blue that goes onto the original Puerto Rican flag that people in Puerto Rico were killed and imprisoned for flying after the US passed La Ley de Mordaza, or the gag law of 1948. That light blue represents sovereignty and resistance. The current dark blue flag is supposed to resemble the blue on the American flag in support of furthering the aims of colonization supporting statehood. Gaga also accented her gown with a custom Flor de Maga corsage, official flower of Puerto Rico. After that, Bad Bunny falls back off of the building as a trust fall to signify the bond of trust built on community and familial support that is so integral in Puerto Rican culture, as opposed to the American culture, which is toxically about rugged individualism. He's falling onto his people because he knows they will catch him, because we're all we have, and we are each other's safety net. And yes, that Puerto Rican community is built in and around the bodegas, the mini marts, the mom and pop restaurants, and the Puerto Rican barbershops and salons. At one point, he even gets a shot of coconut rum from a woman named Toñita, who he also has in his music. This is the actual Toñita, who is the owner of Brooklyn's Caribbean Social Club, one of the last surviving Puerto Rican social clubs in the city, and she is an iconic figure in New York, and there is a celebration in her honor every June 22nd. After that, Bad Bunny goes and gives his little boy self-representation, his grown-up self, Album of the Year Grammy, and tells himself to always believe in himself, showing little Puerto Rican boys and Latino boys all around the diaspora that they should believe in themselves because they will go to extreme heights. Then he has a jibaro playing the cuatro, introducing Ricky Martin singing Lo que le pasó a Hawaii from his DTMF album. This instrument, the cuatro, originated in 16th century with the jibaros, and it is primarily used in música jíbara, evoking traditional country life. It is a symbol of Puerto Rican soul, resilience, and identity, often used in folk music and increasingly in modern genres. And then you tie the history of that instrument to Ricky Martin singing Lo que pasó a Hawaii, which is Bad Bunny's song, warning that he doesn't want the US to do to Puerto Rico what they did to Hawaii. The song serves as a political anthem and warning to Puerto Rico, comparing the two islands' shared experiences of colonization, displacement, rampant gentrification, and over-tourism. And he's singing in the scene of Bad Bunny's album cover, which already represents the story of how Puerto Ricans get in community with each other, sitting outside in the famous plastic white chairs, except on the album cover, they're empty, just like this chair is, because of gentrification and that displacement. And it's actually poetic that Ricky Martin is then interrupted his singing by exploding light posts behind him, with jibaros trying to fix them. Given the fact that Puerto Rico has a continually failing electric grid because the corrupt pro-statehood politicians do nothing about it. And it's interesting that you see the jibaros, the country folk, the common men and women are the ones trying to fix the problems themselves, with no help or support from a governmental system. But Bad Bunny doesn't just stay on the ground singing to the camera his song El Apagón, which is really about the consistent blackouts that plague Puerto Rico. Because him on the ground, having the Puerto Rican flag and singing directly to the camera demonstrates his world-facing advocacy and him using his platform to bring attention to the issue. But there's a point where he puts the flag down and climbs to the top of the light post himself to demonstrate his commitment to our people. He's saying, I will be in the trenches fixing this and in any one of our problems because we do this together. Community is central to this theme. But then we get to where we started. Bad Bunny looks at the football and he said, God bless America.
God bless America!
And people who know English specifically heard that and said, yes, he's being nationalistic and patriotic because he is American. Yes, stick it to the man. You're Puerto Rican. You're a citizen. But then they didn't hear the part right after that. Because right after he said, God bless America, he said a Spanish word, sea.
God bless America! Sea Chile! Argentina!
Sea is a Spanish word that means be it. So when he said, God bless America, sea, and then lists all the countries located in the continents of the Americas, plural, what he's saying is that when we talk about America, we have to decenter the United States. He begins by listing countries geographically under the equator to the top, from the continent of South America, stops at Mexico, shifts to the Caribbean, then all the way to the top of North America with US and then Canada, framing the Americas in a way that has never been done before in a very subversive and revolutionary way, and then ends by centering Puerto Rico. So what he's saying is that together we are America, including all of the countries historically marginalized and neglected. It was a fuck you to the United States.
I love the performance without knowing everything that was happening, all of the symbolism. Watching that video made me love it even more. Because again, it was such a culturally expansive performance that said so much without it being explicitly in your face. And I think the reason why, when it comes to symbolism, I think a lot of people did not understand it in this performance, not necessarily because they don't know Puerto Rican history, but that's what we are seeing in a greater cultural lexicon. Like there were so many rumors being spread about this performance that Liam Ramos, people missed the symbolism that when Bad Bunny was giving the Grammy to that little boy, people thought it was Liam Ramos, the little boy in Minnesota who ICE used as bait to snare and deport his parents. We are almost like so desensitized as a society to think that so soon after something like that, that is so traumatic happening to not just Liam and his family, that Bad Bunny would then put him on such a national stage. It was crazy. And it's almost like the simplest explanation, Occam's razor. If you understand symbolism, and even if you don't understand symbolism, but the simplest explanation would be that he was giving the Grammy to his younger self. And I think some of it obviously is people were looking to social media to fill the gaps, and there were people who will exploit that gap. And that is something that I've been noticing a lot more lately, especially as more and more people chase views in an attempt to become first. to break a story on the internet, especially on TikTok, where views and likes and clicks and shares and followers and profits mean more than accuracy. People thinking that Liam Ramos was the little boy in Bad Bunny's performance at the Benito Bowl is a perfect example of what happens when we have lost all ability to critically think, and it leads to an inability to understand metaphor, symbolism, and artistic expression. Maybe it is a step too far to say that it is an example of people's inability to critically think, but I do think we are living in a time where people really struggle with artistic expression and understanding, watching things to absorb what they are witnessing and allowing themselves to feel things without other people having to explain it to them. Everybody wants to be right. We are living in a culture where everyone wants to have a gotcha moment, where everyone wants to, well, actually, and oh, this is what you missed, or this is what you meant, instead of giving people the opportunity to sit with things and explore it and understand for themselves. And it is because we do not prioritize the arts in this country. But on top of not prioritizing the arts in this country, we have also become a culture where people, instead of them to listen to something or watch something to enjoy it for themselves, they're waiting and looking for other people to tell them what to feel and how to feel. Everybody wants to be first. As soon as something happens, everybody will hop on the internet so they can get their opinion off and go viral and share an opinion that is just the most contrarian or is just the most different because you understood something that nobody else did. It was like when Beyonce dropped Cowboy Carter and this girl came on the internet 30 minutes after the album dropped and said she didn't like it. There's no way in 30 minutes you could listen to the entire album, digest it, understand what you are listening to, receive the symbolism, and just hear it and allow yourself to really experience it. We are a culture that consumes. We are not a culture of patience, of looking underneath the surface, because we are living in an it's not that deep era where nothing is that deep to anyone, and you don't really have to exercise your brain muscles or think critically or challenge yourself to understand anything deeper, because nothing is that deep anymore. Everybody's waiting for someone to tell them how to feel. So why would you need to use your brain and possibly think about the symbolism that was in that performance? It's like very concerning the ways in which people need things spelled out for them in black and white. And that cuts us off from really allowing ourselves to enjoy the fullness of experiences and also being comfortable sitting with the fact that you may not understand something and not everything is for you. Maybe it is because I'm a child of immigrants and I grew up in a household where I regularly heard 3 languages being spoken. I don't need everything to be tailored to me. I don't mind hearing people speaking in different languages. I understood maybe 15 words of what Bad Bunny said last night, but it was the symbolism was there. You can look at the performance, the dancers, the set, and get a feel, get an understanding for what is happening. It is a cultural expression. Not everything is for you. Now, I do absolutely understand that Super Bowl is American football. It is a product of the United States of America, and I understand people's desire to want to be able to understand what's happening. However, they didn't just announce that Bad Bunny was performing at the Super Bowl Saturday. This is something that, you had months to prepare for. So if you didn't understand, you didn't understand, but that's something that was entirely within your control. Like, not only are we living in an era where people lack or struggle with critical thinking skills, there's also this weaponized incompetence and learned helplessness that everything has to be tailored to you and you don't have to seek out information. And the responses, at least the negative responses to Bad Bunny's performance and all of the Easter eggs people think that were there and all of these myths people have run off with is an example of the fact that we are in a critical thinking crisis, and a crisis above all else of imagination. So yeah, just to wrap up my commentary on the Super Bowl and the performance, especially when it comes to the criticism, it was flat. It was flawed. It was manufactured outrage. It had nothing to do with Bad Bunny. The outrage about him not being American or him not speaking English, it's manufactured. It's just fake outrage. We have had non-American music platformed at the Super Bowl. When Shakira performed, when J-Lo performed, we have had non-American performers. There have been so many hits and songs. Weren't people just twerking to Despacito? It was the #1 song in the country for a few weeks. Haven't we been doing the Macarena since 1998? Like, what are we talking about here? I remember being on my driveway as a kid over the summer. Macarena. That's the only word we knew, and to this day, I still don't know what Macarena means, okay? Like literally, so it's just like fake outrage, but it's obviously fake outrage in response to everything that is happening within our cultural lexicon. There has been a very distinct push where white supremacy and right-wing nationalistic politics have been pushed to the forefront in an attempt to change the identity and reclaim what America is who it is for, and what the average American looks like. And so with these Super Bowl performances, especially Beyonce at the Cowboy Carter Bowl, Kendrick Lamar last year, and now Bad Bunny this year, all of those performances spoke volumes through their symbolism, through the outfits, through the songs they perform. This push to redefine what an American is, who an American is, and what an American looks like, having this challenged on the biggest platform in the United States of America, the Super Bowl halftime show. When you think about the Beyonce Bowl recently, the Beyonce Carter Bowl, Kendrick Lamar's performance last year, and Bad Bunny's performance this year, on the biggest cultural stage in America, at the largest sporting event in America, all of these performances have taken place at a time where we are kind of at a crossroads in our country's history where identity has become so important as this administration and right wing politics are trying to rewrite history to erase any level of multiculturalism, to erase the contributions of African Americans in this country, of immigrants in this country, of Latinos in this country, the contributions and our existence here. It is actively being erased. So, on a platform like the NFL, the Super Bowl, during football, the halftime show, for all of these, the biggest artists in America, because the funny part is what moves America, what we define as American, especially in terms of art and culture, it is at its core Black. It is multicultural. And so to have the biggest artists in America come on this platform and use American symbolisms and use the American flag to critique and reclaim what it is to be American has been brilliant. And I've been thinking about this, but I haven't been able to articulate it in a way I saw articulated in this video, and just no notes.
So if you're anything like me, your For You page is just flooded with edits comparing Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl halftime performance from last year with Bad Bunny Super Bowl halftime performance from this year. And if you're anything like me, you have not yet stopped thinking about the parallels between those two performances. And if you're anything like me, you never really stop thinking about the Queen, Beyonce. All that to say, there seems to be this cultural conversation occurring between these three massive artists through these halftime performances and the projects attached to these halftime performances. Three of the largest artists out of America are seemingly having this very intentional conversation with the public about what it means to be American and who gets to own the American brand. See, these three projects to me represent a shift amongst marginalized communities from asking for a seat at the table to redecorating the room. And what's even more interesting to me is the vehicle through which these three artists have decided to have this conversation with the public and to represent this shift among the populace. See, because by using football and the American flag, two of the most iconic symbols of US nationalism through capitalism and patriotism, Beyonce, Kendrick Lamar, and Bad Bunny have effectively rewritten the script on what Americana sounds like and what it looks like in the 21st century. So I want to dive deeper into this conversation. I want to start obviously with Beyonce and what I'm calling the frontier myth. I'm reading off of my notes because this is kind of a beefy topic, so I'm not going to be looking in the camera. With Cowboy Carter and the Beyonce Bowl, Beyonce did more than put on a cowboy hat and ride out on a horse. She presented a massive correction to American history by reclaiming the Black and Mexican roots of the American South and the West, where the mythos of American grit and its foundation was born through the myth of the cowboy, the propaganda of the Western film, and the theft of country music. Through these projects, she reminded us that the roots of American culture are Black and Latino, not white. By centering Black cowboys and including Spanish influences in the music of the album, Beyonce used Cowboy Carter and the Beyonce Bowl to correct a history that was erased by decades of Hollywood propaganda, dismantling the Hollywood-made cowboy, the frontier trope, and firmly planting Black and Latino people back at the heart of the frontier story, a culture that we built and have always belonged within. Now let's talk about Kendrick in what I'm calling the system critique. Kendrick Lamar frames the intersection of capitalism and white supremacy as the great American game. A rigged system where Uncle Sam profits off of Black and brown creativity and culture while constantly moving the goalposts to suppress the agency of the people it steals from. This is what Kendrick meant with the line, 40 acres and a mule, this is bigger than the music, in his mic drop single, Not Like Us. The rap battle was never simply about Drake on a personal level, but about what Drake represents. In The Great American Game, Drake is cast as the ultimate corporate culture vulture, a face that visually belongs in the culture it's siphoning from, but is used to sell a zombified, watered down version of the culture, or hip hop, to the masses, the white masses. While Drake found massive success by playing by the rules and stripping hip hop of its soul for profit, Kendrick ultimately won the game and the rap battle by proving a higher truth. Music is undeniably more powerful, impactful, and ultimately profitable when it's fueled by its authentic culture and a real beating heart, rather than just a corporate bottom line. Thus, the game over, double entendre at the end of the performance. And then for Bad Bunny's performance, which I'm calling the colonial reality. Bad Bunny confronts the exploitation born from Puerto Rico's colonial history. Through these projects, he captures a culture that refuses to be extinguished, remaining vibrant even as it faces a coordinated effort to displace its people through aggressive gentrification, the theft of natural resources, and the collapse of essential infrastructure like the monopolized electrical grid. By bringing the sounds of the island to the NFL stage, he effectively bridges the gap between American and Latin American identities. By performing primarily in Spanish, he asserts that Spanish is an American language, and in doing so, he proves that Latin American identity is not a subculture on the fringes of American society, but an inseparable and defiant heartbeat at the center of the modern American story. All three of these artists moved away from the standard bubblegum safe performance that they could have displayed with this massive stage, and instead moved towards delivering a performance with deep cultural significance and a message to its audience. And through these performances, we're given this sort of cultural map where Beyonce is reclaiming the past, the very foundations of American culture through Western culture and through cowboy culture and the mythos of the American frontier with Cowboy Carter and the Beyonce Bowl. Whereas Kendrick is exposing the present through the Great American Game and the ways that this capitalist white supremacist system mines Black and brown culture and hollows it out for their own gain. Whereas Bad Bunny is defining the future, showcasing how marginalized communities will continue to thrive in the face of colonization and imperialism, dancing through this life together and with love. Beyonce is saying, we built the foundation of this nation and therefore you cannot erase us from the story. Whereas Kendrick is saying, we are the soul of the national culture and you cannot profit off of us without respecting us. Whereas Bad Bunny is saying, we are the future of this nation, a multilingual, multicultural dance party that your hatred and your imperialism can never silence. So together, these three artists have transformed the NFL halftime show from a nationalist ritual into a vibrant and defiant display of the new America. It's one that is Black, one that is brown, one that is bilingual, and one that is unapologetic about our culture, our racial identity, our national identity, and our place within the Great American Project and the American story. If you've hung in with me for this long, thank you so much for making it this far into the video. I'm going to make a part 2 to this where I break down the usage of the American flag through these three performances and what it means to the larger conversation that they're having. Because trust me, this flag is that bitch because she causes all this conversation.
From start to finish, I was like nodding my head so aggressively. I almost like broke my freaking neck because I was like, yes, this is exactly it. She said everything that I've been thinking and then went on to break down each and every single performance and how it's challenging this myth, this narrative of what it is to be American. And all of these performances have served to say, we're not going to let you rewrite history. We know the game. We know what we bring to the table. And America is for all of us. It's for all of us, from South America to the Caribbean, Mexico, Canada, United States. We are all America, and this administration is not going to be successful in their revisionist history attempts to rewrite who is an American, to claim America for just one sole demographic of people. We are all America. And I just love this performance so much. And whoever performs next year is going to have some pretty big boots and shoes to fill. And that takes me to my next topic. Now that the Benito Bowl has passed, people are already floating ideas of who could be at the next Super Bowl. You know, who could be the next headliner, who could be the next performer. And there are so many names that have been floated. I personally think it could be cute if Cardi B is up there. Like, I think it would be cute if we could get Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion. I think they'll probably take it back to a nostalgia moment. Something tells me nostalgia is really big right now. So something tells me we're going to go back to nostalgia next year. I don't know. I just have a feeling, but time will tell. But in that conversation, I saw some of my fellow first generations, some of my fellow Africans, some of my fellow Caribbeans and people of the diaspora floating that the next performer could be from the Afrobeats genre or the Amapiano genre, because, you know, obviously English is not a barrier anymore. If the vibes are there, if the vibes are where they need to be, then heck yeah, we don't need somebody who exclusively only speaks English to perform. We could have somebody, you know, a big Amapiano artist, an Afrobeats artist, you know, Burna Boy, he sings in Yoruba. He's like, y'all gonna get y'all gonna get this music, y'all gonna get this energy, y'all gonna get this vibe. And if you don't understand Yoruba, you'll quickly figure it out. And as someone who is learning to speak Yoruba, it is so hard. But I've been catching some things now, so I'm excited. But yeah, if you are someone who actively speaks Yoruba and you are fluent and you want to help me out, please drop that in the comments and let me know or slide in my inbox, because I'm trying to speak it. I'm trying to speak, and I can like talk to my dad every day, and I probably should be doing that, you know, just talking to him for like 15-30 minutes all in Yoruba to get it. But he's also not like always the most patient person. So I feel like it also helps to like speak to your peers when learning a new language. But anyways, hit me up. But anyways, yeah, you got Burna Boy out there singing in Yoruba. Ashake, he sings in Yoruba, but he also sings in English. Then you have Ira Star, you have Thames, then you have our girl Tyla. And listen, Tyla hate will never not be forced to me. When it comes to Tyla, the hate be so real and it be so forced and equal parts weird. Y'all gotta calm down when it comes to Tyla. Like y'all do too much behind Tyla, and it's very weird. And I know what is behind it, and it may be a little controversial, so I'll get into it a little bit later in this video. Who knew that Tyla hate would be what would unite the diaspora during this Black History Month? It is crazy. And you know what? Here's the thing. Tyla just won a Grammy, and whether you believe she should have won that Grammy or not, personally, I think that Tyla got her start in Amapiano, but she's more pop piano. She makes more pop adjacent music than strictly Amapiano. So to have her in the Afrobeats category, they got to do something. They either got to separate Afrobeats from Amapiano, or they got to put her in a separate category, you know, put her in the pop category. Or when they create those two, when they separate Afrobeats and Amapiano, put her in the Amapiano category, even though I personally believe she is more pop. She has branched out. Water was a smash success. She's had a couple of hits since then. Obviously, nothing as big as Water, but her career has also, at least the United States, she has not popped with the demographic that she has been pushed towards. She has a very marketable look. Tyla is very beautiful. Her sound is fun. And I think that they're trying to market her as this generation's Rihanna. Because I remember when Rihanna hit in 2005, I said, who is this girl? The island girl. Like, I loved Rihanna. Like, Ponder Replay, heavy rotations. I was burning her songs on my CDs. I wasted so many CDs, by the way. Oh my goodness. Remember when we had to burn music on CDs? Crazy time. But anyway, so I think like Tyla is being marketed as Rihanna light, or kind of to take Rihanna's place, although no one will ever take Rihanna's place. But the music industry is not very original. So they just recycle and try to replace all of these women. And it's very annoying because all of these individual artists, they can just be who they are. We don't have to be the next, especially every new female artist. They don't have to be the next this person or the new that person. They can just be themselves. And so with Tyla, I love that even though people are trying to compare her to Rihanna, and she holds Rihanna as an inspiration, she's very much herself. Like, she's giving Y2K. If anything, what I will say about her aesthetic, it's more Y2K baddie, if anything. Like, I don't think she is, to me, she doesn't remind me of any artist we have had thus far. And I think it's because we haven't had Amapiano on a world stage like this. And so when you think about the fact that Tyla just won a Grammy, Water was a huge viral hit. She has a very marketable look, and Amapiano, it's fun music, you know, and you may not be able to understand what they're saying, but it's fun music. And if you were going to have Afrobeats take center stage or Amapiano take center stage, it would just be Tyla. The only other person that I could see maybe performing on their own to take center stage by themselves, because I think a little medley would be cool. I think a medley could be really cool. But the only other person that I could think that would stand on their own is Ira Star. Ira just signed with Roc Nation, so she already has an in with Jay-Z. They're on her. I think they're managing her now. I want to say they're managing her. So she already has an in with Jay-Z. They're working on her look. Like, Hot Body was hot. She hasn't had a pop hit on the American charts yet. She's still very much entrenched as an Afrobeats artist, but I think all she needs is a hit here in America that would skyrocket her and put her in contender status. Now, Tyla doesn't have an expansive, a long category. Like I said, she's only been on the scene since 2023, 2024. And Ira Star has been on the scene for about that long as well. They've both been making music for the same amount of time. And let me be very clear, I am not comparing them against one another and saying one is better than the other. I love both of them. I'm here for the African girls, Africa to the world. I want to see them all pop. I want to see them all shine. Thames is beautiful. She's doing her thing. Iris Star, gorgeous, doing her thing. Tyla, gorgeous, doing her thing. There is no need to have this crabs in a bucket mentality. Oh, one of us can only shine mentality when it comes to the girls. No, they're all doing separate things. They're all separate individual artists who are in their own lane. And the only reason why people are comparing them is because they're in the same general genres of music, but they're all doing their own thing and they all deserve to shine. So when it comes to who could do the next Super Bowl, assuming it would Afrobeats and Amapiano would even be given a chance. And I think that would be absolutely so huge. I just think it's going to be Tyla. And I think that Tyla hate is forced. And if I'm being 110% honest, people are not ready for this conversation. But it is because Tyla does not blanketly call herself Black. That is just what it is. People regard her not calling herself Black and not identifying with being exclusively Black. People regard it as, I know Black, I Dominican, when it's very clear that Tyla, she is not biracial. She is a multiracial woman. And that comprises the category, her ethnic group in South Africa, that multiracial identity is also a cultural identity. It is also an ethnic group in South Africa. She is colored. The uproar about her identifying as colored is manufactured outrage. When you don't like someone, you will find anything to validate your dislike of them. And I absolutely think that it is what the case was when it came to Tyla. The world is bigger than the United States, and the world is bigger than Black and white. Tyla is South African. Tyla is colored. Because of the system of apartheid that existed in South Africa, that is the grouping, that is a category, that is a cultural and ethnic grouping that arose out of the system of apartheid in South Africa. Now, could all colored people decide that they want to call themselves entirely something different? Yes. However, many choose to call themselves colored because that is their cultural identity. And colored in South Africa means something entirely different in America. I've done a video on this before, so I'm not going to get too into the weeds of it. But basically, Tyla is a multiracial young woman. And here in America, we have in our minds, a lot of people are still shackled and enslaved to the idea of the one drop rule. And a lot of people are very comfortable with biracial and multi-ethnic, multiracial women with just a drop of Black blood in them being used to represent Black women, specifically in Black culture. A lot of people need to disabuse themselves and release themselves from the shackles of the one drop rule. Just because someone is biracial does not make them Black. There are some biracial people I know who tell me they are exclusively biracial. They have whatever mixing of them and they do not want to be called exclusively Black. And I respect that 110% because you should not have to erase one entire side of your identity to make other people comfortable and for them to accept you. Now, I know race is a social construct and it is mostly a phenotype. And so a lot of people, they could say they're biracial, but if they look Black, phenotypically, people are going to call them Black. And whatever, that is something that people have to contend with. But because race and ethnicity is such a mess here in America, a lot of Americans, we have this just warped and messed up rigid system of viewing people and categorizing people racially and ethnically, and the rest of the world doesn't move like that. And so our biases and our weirdness, we need to be aware of that and don't need to put that on other people. And so when Tyla was like, I'm not just Black, she's clarified this so many times, but when she went onto the Breakfast Club and Charlemagne the God was being very messy, Tyla clocked it and was like, we're not going to get into that. People chose to see that as, oh, she doesn't want to be Black. Don't call her Black. She hates Black people. She's trying to eat off of our culture and our money, but not identify with us. She thinks she's better than us. All of this projection, all of this anxiety, all of this low racial self-esteem people internalize and have for themselves and then put it on other people instead of just accepting the fact that this is a multiracial young woman who is not just Black. She is all other things and she just wants to be called what she is and what she's known herself as for the longest time. Colored. She is a South African colored girl. It is just that simple. However, because we are in this weird place, I did a video on it recently. I don't even want to like bring it up again because oh my gosh, it's just a lot. And so people have chosen to hold on to this hatred of Tyla. And then when you think about like even on the continent, I thought we stopped the beef. I thought the beef was deaded, but apparently not, because now you got Nigerians going after Tyla. You got Nigerians going after South Africans. South Africans going after Nigerians, talking and then using Ira Star and Thames as a punching bag to defend Tyla. And none of these women would want that. Like it be the fans. It be the fans. When you really think about so many of these beats that happen that happen between artists, it stems from the fan bases. Like these fan bases are messy. When you see them together, it's all love. They be posted up. They've been featured on each other's songs. They hype each other up. They encourage each other. So why are the fans creating something that is not there? It's crazy. It's crazy. So anyways, all of this to say that if we do have, by some miracle of God, we do have Amapiano or Afrobeats in the Super Bowl next year, that would be lit. I would love to see it as a medley. I would love to see Rema up there, Ashake, Wizkid, Mr. Easy, Thames, Iris Star, Tyla, Burna Boy. Oh my gosh, I know I'm missing like a few, but like those are the Davido. Those are the ones that like immediately come to mind. And I think it would just be such a moment to have them up there and do the medley, do a really great medley, because they're all featured on each other's songs. You know, a few years ago we had that Super Bowl performance that had Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, 50 Cent, Eminem was up there. I believe Eminem was up there. Mary J. Blige. Like that would be so freaking cool. And that's what would unite the diaspora. But y'all letting Tyla hate unite the diaspora because that girl don't want to call herself exclusively black. But she's not exclusively black. Like honestly, people with like low racial self-esteem, they annoy the crap out of me, because it would be one thing if they like kept their low racial esteem to themselves, but then they get on the internet and they make it everybody else's problem. And then the other crabs with the same mindset, instead of going to therapy, get on the internet and they get in each other's comment section and they validate their own little insecurities and projections. And it's just weird. It's weird. But Tyla is a colored girl and you will deal. It's so crazy to me how so many people find out somebody has a black grandparent or a black, people will talk about, oh, we're gatekeeping. No more invites to the cookout. But as soon as y'all find out somebody has the smallest infinitesimal amount of black blood in them, oh, they're black. They're invited to the cookout, especially when it comes to black women, because I've noticed people don't do this when it comes to black men. You see the way they've been dragging Drake for 40 days and 40 nights talking about he's not black because he's biracial. So if Drake is not black because he's biracial, why would y'all assume and expect Tyla, who is multiracial, to call herself black? Here's how I know it's also manufactured outrage and forced Tyla hate. Because Lotto, before she changed her name, Mulatto, a biracial woman who a lot of y'all like to call black, even though she has made it clear several times she is not black, she is biracial. She's made that clear several times, but y'all don't have the same energy for her that you have for Tyla. Okay, but anyways, before she changed her name, this biracial young woman was out here calling herself Mulatto, an entire slur. A whole slur was her stage name. She became famous. Y'all were supporting her. Y'all were clapping it up for her. It wasn't until she hit mainstream success and became pop. Well, let me not say became pop, but until she started shifting into mainstream success and had potential to go pop, as she became more culturally recognizable in the larger cultural lexicon of pop music, of pop culture, of pop American mainstream culture, that's when she changed her name. People are so mad. Tyla is a colored girl from South Africa and calls herself colored. People are so mad about that. But Lotto was out here calling herself an entire slur. And y'all didn't have the same energy for that. That is how I know the Tyla hate is manufactured. One thing's for certain, two things for sure. Y'all will never get me on the Tyla hate ban campaign. Never that. I am rooting for all the African girls, Africa to the world. And if Tyla gets that Super Bowl stage, mwah, I love it. If Ira Star gets it, mwah, I love it. If Thames gets it, mwah, love it. If it ends up being a medley of all three of them, and then you bring in the Afrobeats guys and the Amapiano guys, I could take some shake. Yeah. If we got a little twala, bami. I don't care. I don't care what we get. I don't care who it is, because I'm rooting for everybody black. I am rooting for all the African girls, Africa to the world. The Tyla hate is so forced. Y'all look crazy. Y'all look crazy, okay? This Black History Month, today and every day, stop trying to claim multiracial or biracial people as black, regardless of their phenotype. Because another thing I hear people say is, oh, well, they may not identify as black, but they look black, so the world's going to treat them as black. Why does it matter to you if they do or don't identify as black? How somebody identifies, how some biracial person chooses to identify, it ain't got nothing to do with me. It ain't got nothing to do with the price of tea in China. Why are you mad about it? It's very weird, especially when it comes to women. And again, it is because of the way misogynoir works in this country, white supremacist standards of beauty. All of those intersects. Everything is at an intersection. All of these things are connected. Light-skinned women, multiracial women, biracial women have been frequently and routinely used as a representative of Black beauty, what Black beauty looks like. You don't see the same thing happening for men though, but when it comes to women, specifically Black women and standards of beauty and what is considered beautiful in some of our communities, a lot of people want to claim biracial women as Black so they can then be used to represent what Black women look like, which further erases Black women, at least monoracial Black women who look like myself. Tyla is not Black. Tyla is a multiracial woman. This manufactured outrage over her calling herself colored, it has nothing to do with colored being a slur, as a lot of people like to lie about and claim. And it has everything to do with her not identifying as exclusively Black, because so many people want to force Blackness on biracial people and multiracial people. And it's effing weird. It will never not be weird to me. You have some biracial people who will exclusively refer to themselves as Black. Barack Obama, Kamala Harris. They existed and they came up in a time, however, where those were kind of our only options, especially if you looked a certain way, that's what you would claim. But we're not there anymore. Allow people to be what they are and who they are. It's just that simple. So whoever gets the Super Bowl next year, fingers crossed, it's going to be Amapiano, Afrobeats, and I'm rooting for all of them. I want to see them all up on that stage. And as it pertains to the Super Bowl, my last piece of commentary, was it just me? Or were a lot of these commercials just calling us fat and trying to push AI and surveillance culture? There were very few things we could go out to the store and buy. Maybe a cell phone plan, but I remember Super Bowl commercials. They used to be about products. They used to be about beer and food and experiences and travel. And I know nostalgia is having a huge moment, which is why I was very excited to see the Backstreet Boys. That's always fun. And then there was that one Dunkin' commercial where they had everybody up in there. I said, Steve Urkel. I haven't seen Steve Urkel in 11 years. So that was really fun. Like, I really loved it. That commercial, I really enjoyed it. And the Backstreet commercial, I really enjoyed it. But all the other commercials were weird. Pushing GLP-1s, Ozempic. Now they got it in a tablet form that you can swallow and eat, and they're pushing that as innovative. Then you got Mike Tyson calling us fat, talking about how his sister died from being obese. Like, please. Like, what the hell? And what's crazy is that this administration is pushing Make America Healthy again. When Michelle Obama tried to do it years ago, people were down her neck talking about, you don't tell us what to eat. We're Americans. Let us be obese in peace. So it's just like, what is it? Like, what do y'all want? And why does the script always keep flipping? Like, it's crazy. And then you got the AI, the normalization of AI for this, AI for dating, AI to optimize your life. We don't need any more AI. What is going on? What is going on? It's all weird. I feel like we are being programmed in so many ways to just accept AI in our lives, and I refuse. Like, I remember maybe it was a year or two ago at this moment, but when Gmail, they came up with a feature to summarize emails and then write a response to AI response. I said, we are living in hell if you can't take the time to not only read an email and understand it, but then write an email for yourself to the degree that you would need AI for it. I'm not saying that we should be anti-AI everything. I think there are ways that AI can streamline and optimize our daily life. However, at what cost? People are refusing to use their brains, and it exactly is leading to what I was talking about earlier. The lack of imagination, the lack of intellectual curiosity, just taking a minute to think for yourself, to be bored and to just think and reflect on things. It's so crazy. Then the surveillance states. Why do so many people have cameras in your house? I completely get if you like have a live-in nanny or you have a dog and the dog stays home during the day. But for the average everyday person, why do you have a camera system in your home? That is so weird to me. That is so strange. I understand having a Ring camera outside, safety and everything like that. It has helped with a lot of catching. A lot of criminals are very dumb. But also, we are so surveyed, so heavily surveyed as a society. And it has all become normalized through small things that even at a very young age, those small things normalize this surveillance and police state you grew up in. For example, Elf on a Shelf. I think that concept is so cute, but I would also never do something like that. Because not only are you encouraging in your children to listen, not for the sake that they should be listening to you and respecting you, but they're listening to you because there's someone who's going to catch you when you're doing bad things, even if your parents aren't around, and then they'll report it to Santa, and then you won't get any gifts. That's weird. Why have we normalized that? I'm sorry, there's so many just weird we have normalized as a society. And the Super Bowl has really, like, these Super Bowl commercials, they do a really good job of reflecting where we are in culture. And thankfully, enough people are talking about it that I do think more and more people are becoming aware of the harmful, detrimental effects of AI and how we're trying to normalize AI. But far too many people are still using it in ways that may seem innocent, but can have greater long reaching impact. Like people making AI videos of babies. Like, do you realize you're training this software and or making AI videos of themselves and feeding themselves because they want to get a cute little video? You are feeding these algorithms that will in turn not only replace you, but can exploit you. And it's very small things like self-checkout. I hate using self-checkout. Any store that I go to, if I'm in an extreme rush, I will use a self-checkout. But it irritates me to no end when I'm in a store somewhere and I can't find a checkout person. So I got to use the AI. Or I was in, where was I at a few weeks ago? I was at a grocery store. Yeah, I was at the grocery store and I was trying, I don't, try, again, I try not to use self checkout. So I'm at the grocery store and I went up to the cash I went up to the aisle so the checkout person could ring myself up. And he goes, "Oh, you can use the self checkout over there." And I was like, "I know it's there. I just don't want to use it." And he looked at me like I had four heads, like I was inconveniencing him. But I was like, "Do you realize that if enough people continue to go to that machine, you're not going to have a job in a few years?" We are being replaced. And I don't think people realize that. That is in part what is contributing to this job crisis that we are in, because AI is streamlining, but it is replacing human jobs. The entry level job that I got coming out of college working in a law firm, that probably wouldn't exist today because of AI. And then also what's happening is that even if it did exist today, what they would probably end up doing is having someone more senior fill that role and then pay them less. Because that's also what is happening. When AI is replacing all of these jobs, it's saving money for a lot of these companies. And then it makes it so that they can lowball their employees and give them lower offerings, lower salaries, and put more money in the pockets of the CEOs, of the CFOs, of the people in the C-suite and the business owners. AI is not enhancing the life of the average person. I say it time and time and time again when it comes to these screens, when it comes to these new technologies and innovations. These people who are forcing it and pushing it to you, not only are they not using it for themselves, they're not allowing their own children to do it. When something is free, you are the product. ChatGPT is free. At what cost? But that's it. That's all. Drop down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. What did you think about the halftime performance, the Benito Bowl? Who do you think is going to perform next year? Do you think they're going to go back to traditional, or do you think Amapiano and Afrobeats has a chance? And last but certainly not least, let me know what you thought about all of the AI in the commercials and whether you love or hate self-checkout, because I genuinely believe it is going to replace us. But that's another video for another day, or maybe not a video, another video for another day, because I pretty much said all I have to say. But don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, peace out.